I'll come back with another one. So I just want to start this one by saying that life is there's a cool song from the '90s said because there's no such thing as halfway crooks, and I want to say there's no such thing as half measures in life. So I started this video talking about how difficult it had been to land into my own independent living as an adult, even though I was productive and working most of my adult life. Just to have the discipline and the confidence to really step into your own living is it can be more daunting depending on how you started out or how you approach things. And then you add on top of that, I had an interest in music and instruments, and having an interest in music or maybe in art, it's a blessing and it's a passion, but it can also be daunting because it requires a degree of sacrifice and resource to even to appreciably engage an instrument and attempt to develop in it. It takes a lot of because you have to invest time practicing. At one point in India, they say that in order to accomplish anything, you need knowledge, will, and action. All that combined to create an outcome. But I would almost add to, I don't mean to add accretions to it, but I would say somehow in that knowledge, will, and action, that would necessitate resource to one degree, because I don't think you can really approach any of that without some degree of resource. Because like I've said in this series, that according to Arthur Avalon, anything that's dynamic, kinetic, has a static support, and it actually might take more of dynamicism and kinetic activity to establish and maintain a stable static support that would lend itself to further activity in the form of what's kinetic and dynamic, then it would be appreciated. So you have no kinetic activity and dynamic activity without static activity, and no static activity without kinetic activity and dynamic activity. If you can appreciate how profound and also taxing that is, to say that it's similar with approaching something as daunting as an instrument can be, or just even to really think of oneself as an artist and or intellectual, is that it doesn't necessitate any resources at all other than your creativity and your passion and your interest is what's paramount. However, how you go about that is it can be that's you're actually somewhat building the airplane as you fly it, and you're finding out what works for yourself, but you're also covering a lot of ground because you're having to support yourself on different levels, and you're having to take efforts and rigors on different levels, and it's not clear how to go about that or what you may or may not get to experience or be compensated for that for the rigors and resources that you spent. So it's a pure challenge, and it's a very daunting quest. One of my guitar teachers said that this is really the hardest thing you're doing right now. He said this is the hardest thing that we do, is to follow what inspires us, to really pursue what inspires us is the hardest thing. That's what he told me. He would actually play at some of your like professional. He would play for like professional sports venues, like when they would have like an anthem or like music. He would actually do that. Or like back when I was meeting with him, you had some different like military engagement that was ramped up differently than it is right now around the world, and he would travel there and like play for like some of the troops when they were having a chance to rest. That's how technical he was and how respected he was, that he would be approached for those type of venues like that. And he was telling me that it's the hardest thing. I actually got to work with him in person. That actually, I might not actually have counted how much of a blessing I had to some of these teachers that I've had, because I've had another teacher recently that was no less awesome than him, yet no less experienced and credentialed than him, so I really had some outstanding teachers. So just for me to have private lessons with them, and they would both remember me clearly and personally, the former of which that did the football games in the military, he just appreciated my spirit when he first met me. He's like, man, like I know you're interested in. Man, he was really cool. It almost makes it, I'm a little bit wanting to tear up when I think about him and what I was experiencing when I met him. But he was saying that, you don't need. He's actually the one who told me you don't need books, and you don't need you don't need much of books, and you don't need and you don't need fancy schooling to do this. He said that, and actually, he was where we were at, and is near where one of your great rock and rollers comes from. One of the great influential rock and rollers of like the '60s and '70s. That his name is so great that I don't even think my channel is cool enough to be saying his name. But my teacher was saying, if you appreciate that man, he wasn't doing or necessarily knowing about anything incredibly sophisticated, and he's one of the most moving and compelling rock stars. I'm talking about Bob Dylan with that. And then also my brother pointed out that sometimes the Beatles may have been like that, where they weren't they were from a musical background, they had musical experience, but they weren't from like they weren't as appreciated as technical as some of their peers might be, and yet they were as great, if not greater, from that standpoint, just because they were approaching it with creativity, as I think the first artist I mentioned was. And my guitar teacher was saying that is rock and roll, and it doesn't have to be any more or less than that, and it's rock and roll right there, just like that. But what I meant to say is that we can't stop with half measures. And even though I got into independent living, there can still be rigors and suffering in independent living. And one is living next to a dog that barks a lot and aggressively. Is that it can be very taxing and a little bit daunting. And so I still have to go further. But what I wanted to say with this is that a lot of things is that if you want to be good at something, like say like guitar, singing, mathematics, science, um, holding down a job, if you want to be good at something, the first step, and maybe the best step, is to ask. To ask. Then would be practice. Practice is part of that. But so you're inspired, and then you think to learn and practice, but may forget to ask. So there's a few things I want to ask for. Is that I want to ask to be an artist, a musical artist. I want to ask to be humorous. I want to ask to sing, and I want to ask for the strength and the ingenuity to continue to strive, so that I can get into a stronger position to enjoy life, like maybe free of neighbors that would have like dogs that bark a lot, or neighbors that don't want to have anything to do together in life, to actually get to like a stable to get to a community. Because I would say that I've got to independent living to a degree of that, but not to true freedom, true community, true a real home, a true home. I think home in the real word would be freedom, and community would be part of that, and I haven't yet got there, so I want to keep working for that. But asking is the first step to things. And so I was asking recently about becoming a better singer, and I had some ideas about singing today, which is that I think I was quoting Arthur Avalon, is that he says that what we know as a cause of causes, intelligent, efficient cause of causes, therefore the foundation of the different effects that we experience and call life and reality, which are not isolated from causes and still have further cause that we can contribute to and collaborate with, is that cause, that existent, would waste not, true economy, which is actually immortality at that point, according to Arthur Avalon. I've said that would be constituted as healing, would have to be part of that. What we know as intelligent cause would be attended by or constituted in healing, but then maybe therefore also pain and suffering, because it may take a degree of pain and suffering to amount to healing. And then on top of that, he says that when that thing looks at anything, at itself, anything which is itself, it looks at anything as itself. Thereby, it has a standpoint to inspire that thing and to guide that thing and to challenge that thing, that would amount to the best experience and outcome of that thing, which is itself, is the standpoint. So I think that maybe you might meet a lot of people that some people would say are a natural singer, or they're a natural comedian and so forth. And what I'm thinking is that what it has to do is, are you singing to you in the first place? Are you making the joke to you in the first place? Are you saying the idea or the content to you in the first place? And similar to Nassim Nicholas Taleb, from therefore there is it compelling and moving, as if it had first been so to you. That might be true of singing, but also like original thought and music, anything creative. Is it